Hi, my name is Mariska January, and today I will be discussing a tragedy of the commons with regard to the marine fish stocks, its problems, policies, and solutions. Firstly, a tragedy of the commons occurs when any natural or shared resource is overused and under-maintained by people for personal gain or benefit, without any incentive to preserve this resource due to a lack of property rights or ownership. With regards to the marine fish stock, fish are the public good that is being overused. Due to this, in the past the supply of fish was greater than the demand, but currently the demand is greater than the supply due to the under-maintenance and irresponsible fishing that is taking place by fishermen. The causes of the tragedy are quite simple. Due to the lack of ownership over this fish, there is overuse and under-maintenance of this resource. Because fishermen have no ownership over the fish, they have no incentive to preserve it. The effects of this tragedy does not only affect the fish, but the economy as well. This is because a collapse in the tuna leads to a higher demand for it and an increase in its price. The lack of fish also leads to job losses for fishermen. This tragedy could also lead to the privatization of a public good, in this case being the fish. In the following slides, I will be discussing solutions to the tragedy, such as command and control, responsible fishing, which relates to cultural norms, and property rights, but mainly individual transferable quotas. Command and control is the implementation of rules and regulations to limit or avoid the tragedy. It included limiting fishing periods during the year, to limit the amount of fish being taken out of the ocean. It also included regulations on sizes of the fish. These were however ineffective because it was too complex and fishermen found loopholes around the regulations, such as bigger and more equipped boats. Responsible fishing falls under cultural norms. This is when people who practice responsible fishing, who follow quotas, fish adequate fish sizes, and do not overfish, receive social praise or honor for what they do, and when people who overfish are disrespected or disregarded. This is however only effective in small, self-governed communities. ITQs fall under property rights, which is the privatization of public goods which allow for responsible fishing through ITQs, which are individual transferable quotas. This gives property rights to a certain ton of fish. The sum of the ITQs are the total allowable catch per year. These ITQs can be bought and sold. This is a very successful solution to the tragedy. It also has incentives to ensure that other fishermen are obeying the ITQs as well. The negative side to ITQs is the fact that fish migrate. This means that multiple country agreements are required. Therefore, a large sum of money will be needed, which makes it less likely to happen. However, ITQs are still the most promising solution to this tragedy. In conclusion, ITQs are a promising solution, but it would also be wise to consider what other countries have implemented to prevent this tragedy. It's also important to remember that responsible fishing is everybody's responsibility. Property rights, however, do make it easier to protect, maintain, and sustain public goods or resources. Therefore, it is always good to implement property rights on things.